course, Master Splinter from the live-action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Woo!
And of course, Elmo. Please welcome Kevin And next he is a puppeteer performer whose body of work includes Muppet-verse characters such as Ernie from Sesame Street, Wibbly from Fraggle Rock, Beaker, Rizzo the Rat, and Kermit the Frog. Please welcome Steve Whitmire!
Come on, Steve. You're taking too long.
I just noticed the shirt. I didn't know it was a Muppet Vision 3D.
Oh my God.
Rest in peace, I know.
Some of these same people may have been, it was like, what, 2 months ago or something?
Yeah.
Everything down. There's a website called WDWNT, and they basically do news about Walt Disney World. Boy, those are bright.
I know.
Yeah. And anyway, they had me come down as part of the closing of that, and they gave me a shirt, which was really nice. And I thought, where else am I going to wear this?
Well, sure, I know the Michael, the owner of the company, I know he came up and several times. It wasn't there the last day, but he came up as they were leading up to it to just go through it as many times as he could.
Yeah, it was an interesting thing. I hadn't seen it in years, and it was nice to see it before it went away. Yeah.
It was nice that Heather Henson was there.
Heather Henson was there, and Rita Marie Peruzzi was one of the producers, and Fred Buchholz was one of the.
And I keep hearing rumors that they might, with the film part of it, they may put it back out there in some form, like a little traveling show. They experimented with, they did that with Turtle Talk. Yeah, they were doing it, the helper of the of Crush was doing it remotely from here, but they were doing something. So we'll stay tuned.
It makes sense.
We don't know, they don't know, these are
Right.
all rumors.
Right. But if you put rumors out there, sometimes those rumors come true. Right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Stay tuned to WDW. But anyway, we're going to talk to these guys. Hi, how you doing?
Oh, we're great. How are you doing?
I am well, my friend. It's been too long since we've all been on stage together.
It has been quite a while.
Actually, this is the first time physically all three of us have been here.
Yeah.
Hey, what's your name?
Waylon.
What you got?
So, have you ever had the moment where you looked at one of your fellow Puppeteers and gone, wow, I still have no mastery of this? If so, when was it and who was the Puppeteer that did it to you?
Oh my God. Well, in a way, and you'll think I'm saying this because Kevin's sitting here, but I have complimented. I used to say when Kevin wasn't there that I thought Kevin was the best puppeteer.
You said it when I wasn't there.
I really did. The best puppet manipulator in the world. Now, not anymore, of course.
Oh.
Yeah. No, but and part of that was because Kevin did something that I've always admired when he was doing Elmo's World.
See, I've never heard this before.
Oh, you haven't? Kevin, it can be very difficult when you're doing a character when you've got a lot of dialogue, and all Elmo did was talk to camera, talk to the kids at home for 15 minutes practically, to keep your eyes looking right at the camera, because you're probably reading some of this, you're memorizing, but it's really hard. And Elmo, he was masterful at this. And I used to watch Elmo's World just to see if Kevin ever drifted. It was amazing. It was amazing.
Well, you know,
I don't know about mastery, but that's one of the things, you know.
But eyes have, lids on it and everything. When
Yeah.
you have those big, wide,
Yeah.
white, and then this little black dot.
Yeah.
When you're looking at the monitor,
Yeah.
it's really small, and you're trying to,
Exactly.
it just becomes second nature.
Yeah.
I think. We've done it so much that it becomes second nature.
And I know there were times in the earlier days, way back for me, when we would do things and I would just marvel at what Frank chose to do. He brought so much kind of, and it inspired me to do it, organic life to these characters. We did the silly stuff where they're bouncing around being goofy. But I remember it was a John Denver special we did one time. And Frank, no, sorry, it was prior to that. On the Muppet Show, Frank had done this, it was just the head of a deer, like a realistic looking deer character with the antlers. And Frank had done this, and I got to copy him on a John Denver special. And everybody was doing little goofy animals hopping around, but I was doing this very kind of realistic movement of this character that wasn't moving very much like a deer might eat, and then, the ears would go up, and trying to keep it super subtle. And Frank was like, came over after and said, "That was great, that was so good." I said, "Yeah, I copied you." But once in a while, somebody would do something like that, and it just hit, and you thought, wow, that is amazing.
It goes that way.
Dave can be that way too.
of what he gets as a
Yeah, he was
At
very
one point,
precise.
Grover was doing, the professor that he does on Sesame Street where he knows nothing.
Yes.
He's teaching kids and he knows nothing. And the kids are actually telling him, no, that's not what it is. But he was doing this thing where he was in Professor Grover was in a tub. And he was just talking, and then, it was a rehearsal of it. And then all of a sudden, Grover just sunk down in the tub. And all of a sudden, the mortarboard that was on the just was floating. And it was floating over the water, like
Like it came over his head.
Like it came over the. Frank was doing that.
Like
He
that.
just came down and the illusion of it was like, oh, now Grover's there, and that's just the mortarboard floating on. Genius. I mean,
Yeah,
genius.
stuff like that.
We get blown away as puppeteers.
Oh, yeah.
Mama, thank you. Hey, what's your name?
Marcus,
What you got?
I was wondering, what was your favorite project to ever work on?
What about you? Well, my favorite project was Fraggle. I had been with Jim and the group for about 5 years, and I was about 22 or 23, young, and I had a humming kind of metabolism, and I got handed Wimley, which was this wonderful character in Sprocket too. But at that point in my development as a performer, I was finally comfortable with trying to do a character, and I got handed these great characters to dive into. So, and not just that, but Fraggle was a special time too. We had a great crew. We were all in Toronto. We were all the way from home. But a lot of camaraderie. The lighting guys would come in and say, we're not sure that's in character. And Jim would say, okay. And, everybody had input. And it was so collaborative and wonderful. Yeah.
For me, Splinter.
Oh,
Splinter, because as puppeteers throughout our career, we've done all these different children's programming and all of these different things.
Yeah.
To get the opportunity to work with a character that's 75 years old, you had to really focus, make it realistic. 75-year-old, now taking care of 14 years. Doesn't know nothing about parenting at all. And but I mirrored James Olmos from Miami Vice. He was the captain on that. And then Pat Morita from Karate Kid. And I put those two characters together. So it was an acting. It was we all act. We could perform and act. But to really try to bring him to life in a realistic way, that was so much more exciting. At that point in my career, and then to work with these wonderful actors, wonderful actor Elias, who played Casey Jones, and Judith, who was April. It was amazing. It was just amazing.
It's always fun when you get that chance, and I haven't done very much of it. You've done more of it than I have, but the chance to act through your own eyes once in a while. And we don't do that very much. We mostly use through the puppets, and it's puppet to puppet, not person to person. But I worked on a thing called Dream Child years ago. That was a big film that Jim did. The puppets for it wasn't Jim's film exactly. And it was the characters from Alice in Wonderland, and I did the caterpillar. And the point of these characters was that they were grotesque and unkind to an old version of Alice. She was like an old lady at that point. And so I got to do the off lines opposite this very accomplished actress named Carl Brown. And it was very intimidating for me, but I had to be mean to this beautiful little lady, as an acting. But it was wonderful. I loved it.
You're talking about Vincent Price's widow?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Be more specific.
So, but having to play Stern and I was like 30. She's,
Well, we did James Sato, who played Shredder.
Yeah.
That shot of him coming to, and the splinters on the fence, and he's almost died, close to death. And Sato comes over and slaps the what out of it. And then to be able to play those scenes, in a way that real drama. That was cool. I would love to do that.
It's fun. Yeah.
Great question. Thank you. Yeah. Hi, what's your name?
Sarah.
Hi, Sarah. What you got?
I'm just curious what your favorite style of puppetry is, or if there's a style that you wish you got to work with more, like, Vietnamese water puppetry or Ryan Hooded or anything like that.
Everybody has their own style.
Yeah.
All the puppeteers, Jerry Nelson.
Well, even within the Muppet style,
Yeah.
we had different styles. I think it's fair to say that we were both drawn to Jim's work,
Yeah.
right? more than any other type of puppet. But I've always thought, and I bet you feel the same way, just speaking for yourself for a second. I enjoy watching any kind of puppetry if I believe that the character is thinking and alive. That's what's important to me. If I believe that it's a thinking separate thing, it can be a marionette or a rod puppet, but I like to believe it as having its own, I call it, I think the scientific term is a T field. It has a thought field, it has a brain that's actually operating behind the eyes.
Both Steve and I have been witness to some amazing,
Yeah,
that's blown us away, the
Yeah.
simplicity of some of these.
yeah. You remember Bruce Schwartz?
Yes.
You guys know?
Well, Bruce did a part, he did a Muppet show.
Yes, he did.
He did the Muppet show. The articulate is beautiful, just.
Yeah, these
it's
little
art.
characters, he was there with them, he'd hold them by the, kind of the back of the neck, and they would dance and move, and they were completely alive, these little figures. I don't know what happened to Bruce. If you're out there, Bruce, it'd be nice to say hello sometime. Great question, thank you, yeah.
Hi, what's your name?
Hello, I'm Angie.
Took your voice.
Well, thank you. I know we were talking about Happy Time Murders before. What are some other projects that you guys have been surprised that people actually really love, and vice versa?
Wow.
Really love.
Well,
I was surprised. Well, I wasn't that surprised about Ninja Turtles, no.
yeah,
We watched the dailies and we knew that it was gonna be something that, people were gonna be excited about because of Steve Barron, who was the director, he had such a vision for it. That we were like, oh, yeah, this is gonna be, but again, you never know. And then when it really hit, and we actually saw some screenings with the audiences, it was beyond amazing.
it's a funny thing because it's a hard question for me to answer because I love our fan base so much, and the Comic-Cons have given us both the opportunity to meet so many people, which is wonderful. But honestly, I never did any of this work for any of you. I did it because I love doing it, and Chip was the same way.
Well, none of us, we just,
Yeah,
we just, we saw that Jim, if it made him laugh, he
Yeah.
was like he was hoping that somebody else would laugh.
Yeah.
And-
but Jim would have done the work even if it didn't.
No, we didn't have any time to focus on
Yeah,
you.
you know.
It was, we emulated him, his focus. And then he saw Frank and Jerry and Dave, we had to do it. And what was nice is to be able to do it and really hone in on what we did,
Yeah.
but then have a good time.
That was it, and it's wonderful to hear how it affected so many people and how so many people followed it
We're
through
humbled by it.
generations of their families and their lives. But we kind of did it for ourselves. It was a little bit selfish.
Sometimes you can't believe that the stories, especially at Comic-Con.
Yeah, but I think that's true of
These characters
Yeah.
have helped in areas.
Oh, that's really gratifying.
And oh my goodness. And
But it's,
I'm on the phone talking with grandma, the baby yelling at her. Yeah, somebody's grandma, and they're losing, and then their granddaughter or is there crying,
Yeah,
watching me, make their day,
it's kind of a characteristic of a certain time frame, from what I understand too. I saw an interview with one of the guys from Monty Python, and that was kind of the same Muppet Show time frame, that 70s, 80s sort of time. And they were saying, we were almost kind of arrogant about it. We didn't care whether anybody was watching it. We were doing this because it's what we wanted to be doing. And we're glad people loved it, but we would have done it anyway. And to a certain degree, we were all the same way, It wasn't about, there was no social media. It wasn't about us having a list of characters on our social media page or being famous. It was loving the work, And I think that's true of a lot of artists who do a lot of things. David Bowie was like that.
Oh, please.
He happened to be hugely successful, but he didn't really want to get complimented. He didn't want to talk about it. I tried to say, I'm such a big fan. He didn't want to talk about it.
No.
He didn't care.
Now listen, I know we got a short amount of time, so we're not gonna ramble on.
And then,
Well, that's what I was gonna do is since we do a lightning round, so I think we can get through this.
I will go faster.
Yes,
We'll
go
go
faster.
faster.
So here's what I'm gonna you. I'm gonna say, hey, what's your question? And we'll get through everybody. All right, ready, set, go. Hey, what's your question?
So when working on projects with Dickinson, how much of the story and the dialogue was come up with on the spot as opposed to beforehand on the script? And is there anything you came up with on the spot?
You always start with the script.
Yeah, it always was
Start with the
scripted.
script. Even with Sesame Street, they would do Frank and Jim would do the script.
Yeah, they were
And then
reading.
John Stone would say, okay, now just play with it.
Yeah, add whatever you like and
Yeah,
play.
that's what we
Yeah, that was really, yeah, okay.
Hey, what you got?
On Labyrinth, what was it like being the fiery guys?
It was insane because we couldn't see Mandy's black things.
And we found out that the costumes weren't fireproof.
It takes a way to find out.
We were touching these things.
Running
So
is
we-
the biggest
all of a
thing.
sudden, we're seeing firemen on the side. Of the set. What's going on?
It was crazy.
Hey, what you got?
I do have a question for Kevin and Steve.
Cool.
So, for Kevin, you grew up building puppets out of your house. Do you still have any of those puppets?
Actually, I do have a couple of them, yeah, which I'm glad, because, moving and everything,
Yeah,
you lose everything, but I have a couple of them, which I'm really happy about. Yeah.
I got a bunch of them too. They're all kind of falling apart, but I've got them stored away, yeah.
And for Steve, when it came to playing Kermit, how exactly did he play the banjo? Because I saw when Jim was doing Kermit in the Muppet movie,
Yeah.
I was impressed, but then I realized there was no way that he could play the banjo with the rods because he was, inside the underwater tank.
Yeah.
Muppet magic.
There were about 3 different rigs for that. When Jim was in the tank, in the real super wide shots, it was a radio controlled arm that just did this. And I was running it and it just kind of, I would try to hit the notes, but you really couldn't. And then when we did the close-ups, I was standing just outside of the shot with a rod, letting the hand live. So yeah.
Imagine.
I want to do Bunsen Honeydew. Oh wait, I did. You did. That's right. I did. The Muppet mobile lab. Who remembers that? He ran Muppet. Like whenever they could keep that, it kept breaking down. Like, they built it as a proof of concept to show, hey, this is how far animatronic technology is going on. Because I was at Monsters Inc. I opened that show, and then they showed it around. Then they sent it to Hong Kong for like 8 years, and every time they would update it or whatever, they didn't keep a log. So when they sent it back, they were like, hey, we're gonna have it at Epcot and everything else too. And then we don't know what they did with it. So they had to basically rebuild it and set it up, and then they had it going for a while. And now it's
Honestly, they used bigger stuff I recorded. I really think they owe me
Yes.
residuals for all of it. I
well, Dave came in and workshopped the script with us for a day and a half. And my favorite memory was like, I thought you'd like to meet the guy himself, so we actually pulled out Bunsen.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so yeah, we got to talk with Bunsen and work on the voices. That was.
Yeah, it's always fun.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a great question. One valid question for you boys. Do you want to take a picture with this wonderful audience?
Yes.
Okay, everybody.